Your manager smiled while doing it. By lunch, the room felt different, and you were suddenly carrying the tension. The jokes still sounded friendly, but every comment now landed with that strange undertone women recognize immediately. What you're experiencing has a name. You're being positioned as difficult, usually before anyone accuses you directly. In the next few minutes, I'll decode the pattern, explain the psychology, and show you where it turns dangerous. The first sign is subtle. Information reaches you last, especially information that shapes visibility, deadlines, and political perception. But the real shift comes next, when normal disagreement gets repackaged as a personality problem instead of judgment. It starts with tiny edits to your reputation. Your tone becomes a topic long before your actual work does. You answer a bad idea directly, and suddenly the room remembers your delivery, not the flawed proposal. You stay late, fix chaos, cover mistakes, and still hear that you're intense when pressure finally shows. Imagine this. Monday staff meeting starts, your update gets skipped, and your manager thanks everyone except you. Nothing overt happened, which is exactly why it works. The exclusion feels deniable, but your body registers it. Later on Slack, decisions keep moving without you, then reappear as if you were simply unavailable. If this sounds like you're weak, you're not paranoid. You're paying attention to a pattern built on plausible deniability. You feel yourself rehearsing normal sentences beforehand, because even neutral language now seems capable of becoming evidence. Here's the hidden truth. Difficult rarely means disruptive first. It usually means inconvenient to someone's preferred story. Once that story forms, every ordinary behavior gets pulled into it and made to prove the label. Your boundary becomes inflexibility, your accuracy becomes negativity, your exhaustion becomes attitude, your silence becomes poor collaboration. But look like fairness is actually image management. The team wants harmony on paper, not truth in motion. Managers under pressure often protect optics first. They need calm surfaces, especially during reorgs, layoffs, or promotion cycles. A woman who names inconsistencies threatens the surface. She makes hidden trade-offs visible, and that raises emotional cost. So the system finds an easier explanation. Not the process is flawed, but she's hard to work with. This is why private praise often increases right before public support disappears. Approval becomes containment, not advancement. You're told you're valuable, trusted, essential, and mature. Then the high-visibility project goes to someone less competent. Your competence increases workload without increasing authority, and then resentment gets projected back onto your face. But here's what makes this worse. The repositioning usually begins after you do something objectively healthy. You say no to last-minute fire drills during PTO, ask for clearer scope, or question a moving metric. That moment gets logged emotionally, even when nothing is said. The room quietly updates its internal file on you. After that, support becomes selective. Help arrives for others quickly, while your requests start requiring extra justification. You ask, I want to make sure I understand. Could you clarify the metric? And suddenly you're pushing back. You say, can you put that in writing for me? And watch friendliness cool by 2 degrees. Documentation threatens informal power. People who rely on ambiguity rarely enjoy records, especially in performance conversations. That matters during calibration meetings, talent reviews, and succession planning, where perception travels farther than context. By the time you enter your performance review, several people may already share a simplified version of you. Not your actual pattern, just the politically useful edit, smart, capable, but maybe not easy. The next sign is the one most women miss completely. You stop receiving spontaneous advocacy in rooms you're absent from. Nobody fights for your interpretation. Nobody adds context. Nobody says she was right, or she flagged this earlier. An absence is where reputations harden. Most workplace narratives are built by people speaking comfortably without witnesses. That's why skip-level meetings can feel strangely pleasant while your day-to-day reality keeps narrowing underneath them. Tell me in the comments if you've seen this exact split: polite senior leaders, colder access, and shrinking support. I also want to know what word they used around you: difficult, emotional, intimidating, negative, or not collaborative. Read those labels carefully because each one protects somebody else's comfort while obscuring the actual workplace behavior. And after this, notice which label appears right before a promotion decision, PIP, or sudden restructuring conversation. Here's where the pattern reveals itself. Being positioned as difficult is often preparation for reducing your credibility later. Once credibility weakens, almost any organizational move feels easier to justify, even if the real motive stays hidden. That can mean losing stretch assignments, getting excluded from succession conversations, or entering a performance narrative already tilted. In more aggressive environments, it becomes pre-severance conditioning. Your confidence is softened before the formal step arrives. A PIP rarely starts on the document date. It often starts when your interpretation of events stops being trusted. By then, previous conversations get rewritten. Supportive check-ins become documented coaching. Ambiguous comments become developmental themes. Imagine this. A deadline slips because priorities change twice, but your manager frames the issue as consistency and responsiveness. You answer, "I'll check my notes and circle back," because memory suddenly matters more than rapport. That sentence is small, but it protects reality. People distort less freely when they suspect your timeline is intact. Soft retaliation depends on your willingness to stay relational while others move politically. That's the trap. You keep explaining in good faith. They keep interpreting strategically. The mismatch drains judgment, not just energy. What you thought was incompetence is actually strategy. Confusion is useful when someone needs deniability without direct confrontation. Instead of clear conflict, you get moving expectations, delayed replies, and feedback that arrives without stable examples. You hear phrases like "read the room" or "be more collaborative," but no one defines the behavior concretely. That vagueness is functional. Specific metrics can be met. Atmospheric criticism can follow you indefinitely. HR often enters at this stage looking neutral, but neutrality inside a distorted narrative still favors the distortion. HR documents what sounds reasonable, and reasonable language is often where power hides best in American workplaces. Concern about communication style sounds cleaner than "she challenged decisions that embarrassed a manager during a hybrid transition." Team fit issues sound safer than "cow workers resented her standards because she exposed sloppy handoffs on Slack." If this is hitting hard, it's because the wording was designed to feel vaguely true while staying unprovable. Here's what to watch for next. Feedback shifts from observable behavior to adjectives attached to your personality. Once adjectives take over, defense gets harder. You cannot outperform a mood someone benefits from maintaining. That is why women start overworking after the label appears. They hope extra output will reset perception. Usually it doesn't. More output often just funds the same system that is flattening your authority. You become indispensable and still strangely disposable, which is one of the coldest psychological arrangements at work. The deeper pain is not workload. It's realizing usefulness and respect are not automatically linked inside organizations. Fake mentorship often appears here too. Someone senior offers warmth, insight, and private validation without public sponsorship. They tell you you're talented, polished, ready, and misunderstood. Then they remain silent during the actual talent review. The same thing happens with coworker alliances. People agree with you one-on-one, then disappear in group settings. Nobody wants to share your risk if the political wind has already turned. Self-protection becomes social silence. But here's what makes this especially painful for women. We're often trained to repair atmosphere before protecting position. So you spend precious energy sounding softer, cushioning facts, and managing everyone else's discomfort with reality. Meanwhile, the actual mechanism keeps advancing: less visibility, weaker sponsorship, narrower access, and a thicker storyline around you. By the time layoffs or a riff appear, you've been pre-isolated enough that the outcome looks procedural. Strategic awareness begins with separating data from mood. What changed materially, not just emotionally, after the shift began? Did meeting access change, decision-making access change, or response times change after a boundary, disagreement, or promotion cycle? Start there because evidence restores orientation. It gets you out of self-doubt and back into pattern recognition. Notice whose mistakes are framed situationally and whose mistakes become character commentary. That difference reveals the hierarchy instantly. Watch for reputational asymmetry. Some people receive explanation while you receive interpretation with no witnesses present. When that happens, slow everything down. Fast emotional defense usually feeds the exact label already forming. Use calm, low-drama phrases that protect clarity. Thanks for the feedback. I'll think about it. Or say, I'd prefer to discuss this when we have more time, when someone tries to define you quickly. You are not stalling. You're refusing to let a political script lock around you in real time. Follow with documentation that sounds ordinary, not combative. Neutral records travel farther than emotional rebuttals ever do. Send the recap, save the Slack thread. Keep your dates straight, track scope changes and approval shifts. This is also the stage to study your audience. Who is persuadable, who is performative, and who benefits? Some managers are insecure but salvageable. Others are actively building a case because readership already signaled an outcome. You don't need paranoia to see that. You need pattern literacy and the courage to stop over-explaining. The defense move at this stage is selective transparency. Share enough to protect yourself, not enough to educate everyone. Not every coworker deserves your full internal analysis. Loose empathy and tight politics can become usable information. Protect your nervous system too. Chronic workplace distortion trains women to second-guess their own accurate read. If you leave every meeting mentally retrying your wording, ask what incentive others have to keep you uncertain. That question is clarifying. Stable systems correct confusion quickly. Manipulative systems preserve it because confusion produces compliance. This is where many women make the most expensive mistake. They wait for fairness to reveal itself organically. Fairness is not a weather pattern. In organizations, it usually appears only when somebody makes distortion more costly. Sometimes that means escalating carefully. Sometimes it means building outside sponsorship. Sometimes it means planning a quiet exit. Return to office mandates, reorg announcements, and manager changes often accelerate these patterns because power is being resorted. Suddenly, visibility matters more, loyalty gets measured differently, and old labels become convenient tools during internal politics. If your workload rises while your voice shrinks, don't call that growth. Call it extraction with flattering language. If your review sounds positive, but your trajectory keeps narrowing, don't call that patience. Call it positioning. If everyone says they value honesty until honesty becomes inconvenient, don't call that culture. Call it image control. The final reveal is uncomfortable. Supportive teams do not consistently make you smaller to preserve their comfort. And unsupportive teams rarely need open hostility. They can sideline you using smiles, adjectives, and administrative calm. So look at your workplace with one hard question. Where am I being used, and where am I endorsed? Where do they trust your labor but resist your influence, your clarity, your boundaries, or your version of events? Put that in the comments if you want. Sometimes the fastest relief is seeing the pattern described plainly. And if you lived it before, say which signal appeared first: Slack silence, feedback drift, exclusion, or tone policing. Subscribe if you want more language. For patterns, organizations prefer women to misname, minimize, or explain away. Hit the notification bell so you catch the next breakdown before the next performance review, reorg, or development talk. Because once you can name the mechanism, you stop negotiating with confusion and start reading the room accurately. And when you read the room accurately, their storyline loses its grip, even before they know you see it.